Right, so let's talk about Noah and the flood to the Tower of Babel, and we're focusing now on the sons of God and human wickedness. So after the hope that is expressed in Noah at the end of Genesis 5, in Genesis 6, we're introduced to a rebellion against God on a cosmic scale, which contributes to a worsening of man's wickedness on the earth, leading to the flood. Now it came about when mankind began to multiply on the face of the land, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of God saw that the daughters of mankind were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves, whoever they chose. Then the Lord said, "My spirit will not remain with man forever, because he's also flesh. Nevertheless, his days shall be 120 years. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came into the daughters of mankind, and they bore children to them. Those were the mighty men who were of old, men of renown." So this reference to men multiplying on the face of the land places these events during the time of Genesis 4 to 5, when the lines of Cain and Seth are multiplying with the births of sons and daughters. Just like you said, not just sons, but daughters as well. So Lamech has a daughter, Nehemiah, in 4:22. We're told in Genesis 5:5 that Adam fathered other sons and daughters than Seth. And Enoch fathered other sons and daughters than Methuselah in 5:22. And Methuselah fathered other sons and daughters than Lamech in 5:26. So sometime when these humans are increasing and having sons and daughters, the sons of God saw that the daughters of men were beautiful and took wives from among them. We're also told that the Nephilim were on the earth in those days and also afterwards, which possibly means also after the flood. So the big question is, who are the sons of God? And who are the Nephilim? And the biblical writer assumes that we know who they are, but we got to do a little digging to find out for ourselves. So there are three possible interpretations. Some people say sons of God refers to the sons of Seth. Some people say it refers to the earthly kings of the past, possibly heroes from the mythical past. And some people say it refers to heavenly beings such as angels. Yeah, there are lots of views out there already, I can see. All right, so let's talk through each of them. Sons of Seth. This view argues that the sons of God are from the godly line of Seth, who worship the true God. Genesis 4:26 says that from that time, men began to call on the name of the Lord. And they're contrasted with the ungodly line of Cain, like we talked about earlier. Genesis 5:1-5 portrays Adam as a son of God. And so it's argued that the sons of God are in fact the sons of Adam through Seth. But Seth and Cain are nowhere mentioned in Genesis 6:1-4, nor is there any reference to intermarriage prohibitions between the two families. There's nothing in the text that says that the sons of Seth can marry the sons of Cain. And in fact, as Angie was pointing out, this is not some kind of discriminatory practice where once over that side of the line, fire for you. This is not what is going on. Also, this interpretation requires a different meaning for Adam in verses 1 and 2. So in other words, if I can go back, this is Adam. Now it came about when mankind, Adam, began to multiply on the face of the land, and daughters were born to them, that the sons of God saw that the daughters of Adam were beautiful, and they took wives for themselves, whomever they chose. So this Adam is obviously referring to all of mankind. You agree? Yeah. And this Adam would be, on the Seth interpretation, referring to only some of mankind. You see the problem? Yeah. All right, okay. So, additionally, nowhere are the sons of Seth called sons of God in the Bible. The next interpretation is earthly kings. This one it appeals to the idea that kings are sons of God, like David in Psalm 2 is referred to as a son of Elohim. And God's people are called Yahweh's firstborn son. And so it's thought that it's referring to earthly kings who abused their divinely appointed role and engaged in polygamous marriages. They had more than one wife. And so the sin is polygamy, along the lines of Lamech, who also took wives. Some people combine this interpretation with the angelic view and say that the sons of God are both divine and angelic. But the problem with this interpretation is that Genesis 6:1-2 nowhere says that the marriages were polygamous. And while there are ancient parallels to divine kings as the sons of God, there's no parallel to an entire group or nation that is called God's son, like Israel is in Exodus 4. The major weakness is that while both within the Old Testament and other ancient Near Eastern texts, individual kings were called God's son, there's no evidence that groups of kings were called that. So we come then to the heavenly beings or the angelic interpretation. This one is the oldest. It's existed in not just extra biblical Jewish texts, but it exists as well in the New Testament. And most modern commentators agree with the view that sons of God refers to the heavenly beings or angels. So let me walk you through that one a little bit more. So sons of God, the word God in that phrase is the Hebrew word Elohim. And that word Elohim really means gods. It's the plural for God. But that same plural word is used in the Hebrew Bible to refer to the Israelite God. It's like a honorific title, and so God is referred to as Elohim. But you know, it's talking about God because the verb that is used with Elohim is usually, in that case, singular. But there are other instances where it is used in a plural sense and is referring not to God as the creator of heaven and earth, but it is referring to gods. But it's not only used to refer to gods, Elohim can also refer to heavenly or spiritual beings. So you remember in 1 Samuel 28 when Saul consults a medium and he sees Samuel coming up? Yes? What does the medium say she sees coming up? Does anybody remember? 1 Samuel 28, Saul is about to die. He can't get any answer from God. God stopped talking to him. And so he goes to a medium and he says to the medium, bring up Samuel for me. And the medium, she conjures up Samuel. She disturbs him from his rest. And Saul says, what do you see? And she says, what does she say she sees? Some of you are looking at your Bibles. 1 Samuel 28, verse 13. I see a spirit. Anybody have another translation? It don't say duppy. Unless maybe the Jamaican version. I see a God coming. What translation is that? ESV, very good. I see a ghostly figure. Very good. Yeah. You know what word that is? Elohim. So Elohim, really, the ESV translates it God. Spirit, what translation was that, Peter? Is that NIV? NIV. Yeah. And ghostly figure is what? NIV, but that's probably 2011. Yeah, and it's probably 1984. Right. So the point I'm making is that the term can be used to refer to a spirit, a spiritual being. Because Samuel coming up, he's not coming up in bodily form. He's coming up in a spiritual form. And so an Elohim is not really only referring to a God. It can refer to a spiritual being. It can also mean a heavenly being as opposed to an earthly being. Are you guys still with me? I hope some of you are stuck on the ghost and the duppy. All right. So the actual phrase is sons of God. In Hebrew, it's B'nai Ha-Elohim. So this is son of. So it's the word son in construct form, meaning this is how you know it's supposed to mean something of it. So sons of, and this is the definite article the, and then Elohim. So sons of, this can either mean sons of God, if you read Elohim as referring to God, honorific title, or it could mean sons of the gods. You guys with me? Yeah. All right. Now the term appears 5 or 6 times in the Old Testament. The first 2 times are in Genesis 6, 2, and 4. Job 1:6 is one place. It says, "Now there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came among them." Job 2:1. "Again, there was a day when the sons of God came to present themselves before the Lord, and Satan also came among them to present himself before the Lord." And then Job 38, when God is speaking to Job and telling him, don't ask too many questions because this is above your pay grade. "Where were you when I laid the foundation of the earth, when the morning stars sang together and all the sons of God shouted for joy?" So all these references seem to be referring to heavenly beings who are in the presence of God. You agree with me? And then Daniel 3:25, this is in Aramaic, but a similar expression. "He answered and said, but I see 4 men unbound walking in the midst of the fire, and they're not earth. And the appearance of the 4th is like a son of the gods." Now, from its occurrences, we can say that the expression sons of God is in the Hebrew Bible is used rarely, but it consistently refers to heavenly beings or members of God's divine council. As we will see, this interpretation is reflected in the New Testament in both 2 Peter and Jude. But let's look at some more similar, not the same exact expression, but similar expression in other places in the Old Testament. In Psalm 29, we have "Ascribe to the Lord, you heavenly beings." This is the NIV, but literally, and this the footnote tells you, literally sons of gods, because the Hebrew is B'nai Elim. Now, Elim is another plural for God, El, so not quite Elohim, but similar, but they understand clearly that it's referring to heavenly beings. "Ascribe to the Lord glory and strength. Ascribe to the Lord the glory to his name. Worship the Lord in the splendor of his holiness." Or Psalm 82. God is taking his place in the divine council, in the midst of the gods, the Elohim. It's not saying that they are individual gods. I think what it's referring to them as are spiritual beings, heavenly beings who are in his divine council. God holds judgment. He said, "You are gods." Hebrew is Elohim, "sons of the Most High, all of you. Nevertheless, like men you shall die and fall like any prince." God is speaking here to his divine council. He's really speaking to what we would call angels, and they're called sons of the Most High, and they're also called Elohim. And then Psalm 89, "Let the heavens praise your wonders, O Lord, your faithfulness in the assembly of the holy ones." Who in the sky can be compared to the Lord? Who among the heavenly beings, literally sons of God, B'nai Elim, is like the Lord? A God, El, greatly to be feared in the council of the holy ones, and awesome above all who are bound or around him. Our God, Elohim of hosts, who's mighty as you are, O Lord. So not quite the same expression, but quite similar, but the idea is the same. We're talking about heavenly beings who are in God's divine council in the heavenly realm. And so son of gods is used to refer to heavenly beings who are members of God's divine council. Now, the other thing that I would say is sons of or daughters of X, like sons of Bethlehem, in the Bible is consistently used to refer to members of the group of X. So sons of Bethlehem are inhabitants of Bethlehem. Daughters of the city are female residents of a city. Daughters of Edom are inhabitants of Edom. Sons of Egypt are inhabitants of Egypt. Sons of the prophet means members of Elijah's prophetic group. You've seen that expression. Sons of humanity means members of the human race. And so daughters of the song are female singers. And so daughters of humanity means human daughters. And sons of Elohim means Elohim beings, that is spiritual beings, sons of the spiritual class. Is this making sense? Yep. All right. Now, this interpretation is reflected in the New Testament in 2 Peter and in Jude. We read in 2 Peter, "For God did not spare angels when they sinned, but cast them into hell and committed them to pits of darkness hell for judgment. He did not spare the ancient world, but protected Noah, a preacher of righteousness with 7 others, when he brought a flood upon the world of the ungodly. And if he condemned the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah to destruction by reducing them to ashes, having made them an example of what is coming for the ungodly, and if he rescued righteous Lot, who was oppressed by the perverted conduct of unscrupulous people. So both Jude, which we're going to read in a second, and 2 Peter reflect a New Testament interpretation of Genesis 6 as referring to angels. Notice first that we have 2 incidents of God sparing the godly amidst judging the ungodly. The first is God is judging angels and the ancient world at the time of the flood and saving Noah. The second is the judgment on Sodom and Gomorrah and God saving Lot. And this points a reading of the flood as involving judgment on angels and humans, which suggests that Peter's reading it as referring to the sons of God as angels whose actions lead to the flood, and who are therefore punished by being cast into hell, where they're held in pits of darkness, which agrees with later Jewish texts that interpret the flood story. There's also a correlation between the sins being judged at the time of the flood and the sins at the time of Sodom and Gomorrah. This is even clearer in Jude. Jude says, and angels who did not keep their own domain, but abandoned their proper dwelling place, these he has kept in eternal restraints under darkness for the judgment of the great day, just as Sodom and Gomorrah and the cities around them, since they, in the same way as these angels, indulged in sexual perversion and went after strange flesh, are exhibited as an example in undergoing the punishment of eternal fire. So, notice that he says, in the same way. So he's saying that the angels and the people in Sodom and Gomorrah sin in the same way. And how they sin in the same way is that they went after perversion by going after strange flesh. So some kind of sexual perversion is involved, and some kind of crossing the boundaries. Boundaries that God erected. Men are supposed to sleep with women, not men. Angels are not supposed to sleep with women. And so this is what, you like that, Julius? I like having Julius in the room. So the idea is that there is a correlation, to use Marlene's word, between the angels and the people in Sodom and Gomorrah. And what we have is some kind of heavenly rebellion resulting in illicit sexual union between heavenly beings and human women. What's going on is man is reaching up to reestablish connection with God and the heavenly by trying to have intercourse with heavenly beings. They are seeking, the heavenly beings are seeking to offer mankind something heavenly without God, like the snake offered Eve to become God without obeying God. This is an attempt to restore order by regaining the presence of God, the heavenly, but not on God's terms. Now, right about now, you're saying, is this for real? Or maybe you're saying, is this really for real? Angels having sexual intercourse with women? Some can go so. And the angels are only men. And that's a good point, because in the Bible, angels are only men. Something to think about. Well, at this point, some of you are checking out. Oh, we're quitting to come with them strange. So we never hear nothing go like that, sir. So here's what Gordon Wenham says. He says, if the modern reader finds his story incredible, that reflects a materialism that tends to doubt the existence of spirit, good or ill. But those who believe that the Creator could unite himself to human nature in the virgin's womb will not find this story intrinsically beyond belief. Our problem is, in our modern world, don't tell me I don't want no spirit business. I don't believe in Obia. I don't hear about no duppy. I only want what science can prove. I don't know the spirit business. But the Bible does deal with spirits. And Wenham's point is, if God's spirit can unite in the body of a woman to create a being that is both God and man, then this stuff is not all that strange. It's strange to us because of our cultural context. We're far removed from it. And we think we know better than them. We're not too much in on the spirit thing. But maybe we've got to allow the Bible to retrain our way of thinking. Are you guys with me? All right. Now some people say, well, what about Mark 12? Jesus says, when the dead rise, they will neither marry nor be given in marriage. They will be like the angels in heaven. But notice that he says at the resurrection, we'll be like the angels in heaven. So heavenly or celestial beings, when they're sent down to earth, they're called angels, messengers. And they don't appear with wings. Because if they appeared with wings, they would give heart attack to anybody that they went to. They appear as human beings. You read the Bible. Angels appear as human beings. So when the three angels come to Abraham and to Lot, there are many instances of this. They look like people. And for that reason, Hebrews says, do hospitality, because in this way, people have entertained angels and not know it. Now, if they had wings, I think you would notice that, You got the dinner table, and you got this wing going, You're like, no. What you've got are actual persons who look like human beings. And they're actually able to eat and take on human appearance and interact in a physical way, which means it's possible then that these angels here on earth could interact corporeally with women and have children. Angels are always referred to as masculine in the Bible. But in heaven, they're spiritual beings. And given the fact that they're all male, there's no possibility of marriage up there. But on earth, they can manifest physically as men and apparently have intercourse with women. And so when Jesus says that the resurrection will be like the angels in heaven, he's saying that when we get to heaven, we're going to be spiritual. We'll have spiritual bodies, and we won't be marrying or given in marriage. By the way, there'll be no need for us to multiply to preserve life, because by that time, we'll all have eternal life. So I don't think this is an objection to the sons of God being angels. So what does it mean in terms of the text? What we have is a cosmic rebellion with heavenly beings transgressing the boundaries between heaven and earth by marrying human women. And God responds to the cosmic rebellion by saying man's days are going to be limited to 120 days. 120 years, thank you. God's statement that my spirit shall not abide in man forever brings to mind Genesis 3:22, in which he prevents mankind from taking from the tree of life after another transgression, lest he live forever. And so this implies that the divine human intercourse was like eating the tree of life intended. Did my mic go? Oh, I'm here. For man. This attempt to usurp what belongs to God alone is therefore condemned. Instead, human life is limited to 120 years. So they're grasping at immortality by these illicit liaisons with heavenly beings, and that results in a limitation of life, like Eve's attempt to become like God results in death. And so God says, my spirit, God's spirit, remember God has to breathe into man. God's spirit is what makes your body not just deteriorate. I am able to walk up and down and speak and be animated because God's spirit is in me. The moment that spirit goes, this body will collapse to the ground and it will begin to rot. So you're alive this moment because God is keeping you alive. And what God is saying, they're just flesh. They're trying to be more than that, but you know what? If I take away my spirit from them, they're done. And so God says, you know what? They are fleshly, they're not heavenly, they're morally weak and prone to sin, and so I'm going to give them 120 years. And that could be read a couple of ways. It could mean he's limiting their lifespan to 120 years. The problem with that is there are many people who live after the flood for more than 120 years, but it could be that God is winding the number down. I think a more reasonable interpretation is it's 120 years to the flood. In other words, in 120 years, I'm going to bring a flood that's going to wipe them out. And I think this is consistent with what 1 Peter says, where he says in 1 Peter 3:20, God waited patiently the days of Noah while the ark was being built. Maybe God gave Noah 120 years to build the ark. So Derek Kidner says, it seems then that God is concerned at this point not with depravity, which verse 5 will introduce, but with presumption. This was the theme of Genesis 3:5, where man wanted to be like God, and of Genesis 3:22, where God wanted to prevent them from living forever. And it recurs in the story of Babel when they're trying to reach onto heaven. And the present episode could well belong to the series as an attempt, this time on angelic initiative, to bring supernatural power or even immortality, illicitly to earth. Hence a contrast between spirit and flesh in God's comment. God says, you know what, man, you're still a mere mortal, sustained by God's animated spirit, as in Psalm 104, and they exist only at God's good pleasure.